Hi everyone, I'm Stelis Papagregoriou. Welcome to the Capital Roots for Mining Mendoza Finance Day webinar. I'm very glad to be here with two people I honestly speak these days more than my own team in Buenos Aires. Sebastián Pina, CFO of Impulsa Mendoza, and Guillaume Legarret, Head of Latin America at the Toronto Stock Exchange. We've been, all three of us have been talking a lot and very frankly because we share the same ambition, which is essentially creating real bridges that can bring capital into Argentina and the wider region that we are right now. And that's exactly the purpose of today's webinar. From my side, I will be focusing more on the international bridge, how can Argentina and the wider Andean region can connect credibly with global capital. I'm happy to have Sebastian here to cover more on the local perspective and how can Impulsa Mendoza drive the province vision and potentially the region's vision to become a hub and enable projects to actually get funded. And from Guillaume's side, we would like to hear the Canadian perspective, how TSX and TSXV provide practical routes from early stage capital through listings, including tools like the CPC mechanism. TSX being one of the biggest and main stock exchanges to raise capital for mining. And I would like to remind everyone that this is the first step actually on a series of activities that we'll be doing, building up to our November's Argentina Critical Mineral Summit, where we want to, between today and at that moment, prepare and help local companies and international investors prepare for fundraising and also identifying the right opportunities for them. So let's kick it off, starting with Sebastian and talking a bit more about, obviously, if we want to create a capital bridge between Argentina and the region and international markets, we would need to have some kind of a hub or a local anchor that will allow us to achieve it successfully. Could you talk to us a bit more about Impulsa's vision to create this kind of financing hub in Mendoza?
Yes, of course. Well, first of all, thank you very much, Stelios. Nice to see you again, Guillaume. I'm really happy to keep working on several activities with you and really expecting to host the summit during November here in Mendoza. Well, in terms of Mendoza, we've been pushing during the last year in order to become like a safety place for mining investment. Specifically, the administration of Alfredo Cornejo, our governor, and the minister Jimena La Torre, they've been really focused on this, trying to leverage the capabilities and the characteristic of Mendoza in order to promote like a sustainable mining hub here in Mendoza. Well, based on several initiatives that have been taken here in Mendoza toward this potential of a sustainable mining hub, we try to understand where the money will come from, because several projects will come into the table ready to get explored. And the following question that we did here in Impulsa Mendoza is where will the money and the capital come from? Because our capital market is quite underdeveloped. The top markets in the world for financing in mining are Australia and Canada. So we need to build these bridges in order to push our initiative with a capital market that is highly required for going ahead with exploration. So that's where we started creating this Impulsando el Financiamiento framework, and it's about all this initiative that we will mention today.
Fantastic. Thank you, Sebastian. Could you walk us through potentially on a few different levers or practical mechanisms that you guys are envisioning, or maybe you have already created, that people that are hearing us can leverage? And then maybe how this would be connected on the finance day that we're aiming to do in November, which I think it will be a very great moment for people to connect with financing.
Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, it's really important to understand that if we want to explore, we need the capital markets, because it's the place where the mining get the financing in this early stage. So the first thing was to understand this and to try to get involved with these places. For example, Canada, that, in my opinion, is the most efficient place for us in Argentina, mainly because, the timeline that we share with them is quite the same, rather when comparing with Australia, which is also a huge capital market, right? So in this regard, we also found that it's quite expensive, to get to Canada, despite of the fact that Guillaume is really involved here in Argentina, TSX, of course. Still today, our project owner needs to go to Canada, take a flight, do their own networking, and well, it's a way that it's been working during the last year. But as Impulsa Mendoza, like a development and promotion agency, we start thinking, okay, how can we make this more efficient? Because if we need to push our activity, we need to get the financing in the most efficient way. So there is the time that we start getting involved with TSX. We are really glad with them because they've been helping us for getting a better understanding, getting involved with our situation that will help us to push. Yeah. But understanding, of course, how the financial hub for the mining works, for example, by visiting Vancouver or Calgary, thanks to TSX that help us to build agenda and get this understanding, we said, okay, yes, Vancouver, Calgary are not like the main capital city, and they have like in a financial environment around the mining or the oil and gas activity. And Mendoza could be that place because if Argentina had managed in order to grow as Australia or Canada grew during the last year, their economic development, Mendoza should be someplace like that because we have the same characteristic in terms of logistic, infrastructure, human resources, and all that requirement for becoming a financial hub. So by understanding this and going deeper with researches, for example, we hired our local university to understand what we should do and what a financial hub is where we build this Impulsando el Financiamiento framework.
Great. Thank you for the insight, Sebastian. Very, very interesting. A lot of follow-up questions on exactly, how someone can, leverage this, how can a particular project can, use this to raise funds. But before we go there, I would like to go back to Guillaume and maybe zoom a little bit more out and see more from external outside of Argentina lenses and from the lens of the Toronto Stock Exchange. How do you see the Argentinian and the Andean market right now? And maybe if you can give us some initial thoughts on how someone can raise funds from the capital markets of Toronto, and what would be some key mechanisms that maybe we should be aware of.
Good. Lots of ground to cover, Stelios. Thank you very much for the invitation. Nice to see you again. And Sebastian, we're working really closely together to try to better connect our markets. I think this is mainly what we're trying to achieve at the TSX and the TSX Venture. We established, just to provide some context here, we established a local presence. I'm actually currently based in Sao Paulo, and we decided in 2019 to establish a local presence in Latin America, really to connect opportunities with capital. Mining obviously is one of the key sectors for us across Latin America, but clean tech and energy transition, renewable energy, oil and gas, energy security, all these themes are key to the Canadian market, but also really relevant to a market like Argentina. And just to put also mining into context, because the main purpose of the call is around the mining sector, we are the main mining exchange. We have a total market cap of around 47 today billion dollars just for mining on the TSX and the TSX Venture Exchange. We have close to 1,100 issuers, close to 1,000 on the Venture Exchange, and on the main board, the TSX, close to 200, 180 something. So if you look at how we see the market, we are a natural two-tier ecosystem. So a company usually would start on the Venture Exchange and then would graduate to the main board, the TSX. In fact, for mining, 54% of the mining issuers on the TSX are graduates from the TSX Venture. So our intention in the region is really to connect with projects, not only the mature projects that can raise capital on the TSX on the main board, but the exploration phase or the junior mining projects that are sometimes desperate to find capital and to grow with global capital. So we are the #1 mining exchange in 2025. So far, we have raised about $6.4 billion out of the $15 billion raised on TSX and TSXV. So mining is a very important part of the capital raised so far and on our markets in 2025. We had so far also this year about 47 new companies listed on TSX and TSXV. And of those 47, 30 were mining companies, about 22 on the venture and 8 on TSX. Even though, I mean, we consider the markets are currently really slow to raise capital and slow to list new companies, but we're still the number one mining exchange in terms of capital raised compared to the other markets that are also raising capital for mining. So bottom line, we are the number one mining exchange. We want to promote our capacity or our two-tier ecosystem to LATAM projects. And there's different ways we can do this. LATAM is the most important market for us also outside of Canada. There's more than 5,000 properties, 5,200 properties that are listed on the TSX and the TSX Venture, and about 1,070 are in Latin America. So 1,070 properties, these are 401 issuers more or less across Latin America, TSX and TSX Venture listed on TSX and TSXV. So how does Argentina fit into the picture? Argentina is in fact the second market after Mexico. We have 52 TSX and TSXV issuers in Argentina with 157 properties. So after Mexico, and there's the most important number of properties are from Argentina. We believe that the provinces in Argentina were taking a leading role in promoting investment in different provinces. Mendoza has been positioned as a leading the way in terms of promoting the investments. We've been monitoring the opportunities in Mendoza. It is like a new mining jurisdiction, even though there's lots of things that should have been going on for many years, but we see Mendoza as a new mining jurisdiction that will be able to generate new opportunities for our issuers and also for the local property owners. So our intention is to work with all provinces. Of course, there is a lot of leadership around mining from different provinces, and we see this event in Mendoza in November and the conference in Buenos Aires as a way to connect our markets. So we will talk in more details about the CPC program, but a capital pool company is really it's about connecting the founders of a CPC, that is a shell listed on the TSX Venture Exchange, and on the other side we have the property owners in Argentina and other markets that are looking to raise capital. So what we're trying to do is to connect the CPC founders and the property owners and to generate a new listed entity on the TSX Venture Exchange. So we'll talk into more details about how we see this, but the CPC program has been a very important program, more than 20 years of experience in the Canadian capital markets. Over 2,700 CPCs have been created so far. They have raised over $75 billion in equity, and we believe that this is the number one solution for junior mining companies to go public on the TSX Venture. We'll talk in more details about this, but I just wanted to put things into context about the importance of LATAM, the importance of Argentina, and the way we see our local presence in connecting project with investors in the next couple of weeks.
Fantastic, Guillaume, and I think this comes at a great moment. I think both Argentina and also the region are in a critical moment where I think we're going to see a massive increase in exploration. We see a lot of advanced projects actually getting a very big spotlight, especially copper, lithium. We've been seeing it for a while, but also in other minerals, and with changes in legislation and other changes that have been going on for the last few years, we see this new wave of earlier stage kind of mining that is emerging. And that's exactly what we want to facilitate and help, right? Creating these kind of bridges where this more early stage exploration or a bit more advanced, but not production space can get funded and can be educated on how they can be going outside of the region to actually source this kind of funding, right? And we are very happy to say that we've been creating a few different initiatives for this kind of purpose. I just want to mention that we will be hosting also a workshop next week physically in Mendoza, where we will bring all of the local ecosystem of Mendoza, plus a lot of international, local and also international early stage projects that they would like to figure out how they can be listed, how they can raise funds from abroad. And we will continue with different online resources to continue education, leading up to essentially in 2 months, bringing together the most impactful early stage projects within the region that they want to be connected with the delegations that we'll be organizing. So I'm very happy on how fast all of this has been growing. Maybe shall we touch upon a bit more? Sebastian, maybe you could answer this question, and maybe Guillaume, you could build up as well, which is right now for an early stage project that wants to raise funds and also be connected with the right partners. Would you have any kind of checklist that people should be aware of, and how can we help them through today, through our webinars, and also how can they be prepared to essentially connect with funds in 2 months' time? Sebastian, if you would like to start with this question, and then Guillaume, would love to hear your thoughts as well.
Yes, of course, yes. Okay. Well, the benchmark for getting financing, in my opinion, is, to meet the minimum requirement that TSX requires as per definition to get listed in the TSX venture, right? So there is the market, and that's where we need to go. On top of that, we need to build, the environment where our projects meets this requirement. We're working on top of that, and we need to host the people that really understand and can help, the junior miners that how they can achieve this requirement, right? So the workshop on Tuesday is really important because we're trying to get involved our accountants mainly and our lawyers, which are kind of the main professionals that work with the juniors company. And if they get the understanding on how to get listed and how the CPC work and how TSX is about, it will be really easy, and we will be building this environment that we need to achieve, taking Vancouver or Calgary as a benchmark where we went and visited and we understood, the environment is full of knowledge on every single people right there in a high concentration in let's say in the city center. They know how to get financing and how to get ready into TSX because it's part of their life, right? And yeah, in order to become like a financial hub, that will be kind of our characteristic.
Great. Guillaume, would you like to add something
Sure.
from your perspective?
I really like the fact that Mendoza is positioning itself as in a position where they want to educate. There's obviously lots of greenfield opportunities in the province. It will take time for some of those projects to be perfectly aligned with a TSX venture listing, for example. But I think we need to be part of the education process. That's why we've been, for the past 2 years, I would say that we spend more and more time in Argentina to be part of the education process, to talk to the stakeholders, to meet with the property owners. And I would say that, of course, we're always looking for the projects that are a bit more mature, exploration projects that have, I would say, that can prove that they have the quality of the resource itself through the 42-101 report, the National Instrument 42-101. We're looking for projects not only that have the right resource and the quality of the resource, but the management team itself. So sometimes we find nice properties, but they lack the management team really to take the lead and bring this to the next level after they raise the capital. So in fact, when we talk about the CPCs, the capital pool company founders, they do not operate mines. They will maintain like a significant role after the company is listed and up to the listing of the company, the qualifying transaction on TSX Venture. But we really need to have already 3 main pillars, which is the quality of the resource, the quality of the management team, the ESG, or like the sustainable part of the project. And once we see these 3 pillars, we can start really thinking about how we can connect the project with capital. And this is the exercise that we'll go through in the next couple of weeks. That's why we are planning this webinar today and next week in Mendoza. and it's really an open discussion for all the projects in Argentina, the projects from Peru and Chile. We're talking with different stakeholders across different mining jurisdictions. And of course, we see this as an opportunity to showcase the best projects from Argentina, Chile, and Peru, as an example, in front of investors, CPC founders, brokers in November. So that's what we have in mind. But we want to take an active role in education, in the market, explaining what needs to be done to go public on the TSX Venture, the benefits of going public and raising capital on TSXV. So this is what we intend to do as well, to help move the sector forward in Argentina. We want to be part of all the discussions.
Fantastic. I think this is the perfect moment to potentially ask you, Guillaume, if it's okay, if you can share a little bit more details about how does the CPC mechanism works. Obviously, as you mentioned, we're going to have a very detailed material that we'll also post online. But maybe as a brief introduction on high level, how does the CPC mechanism works? And if you have maybe on top of your mind a few successful cases that we can visualize and people can relate a little bit on how does this journey look like?
Yeah, well, it's very important to explain what the CPC is and what it is not. We talk about CPCs. It is really an empty shell that is listed on the TSX Venture Exchange that has over 200 shareholders. So there's no liabilities in that shell, because sometimes people think about reverse takeovers of a shell and they would like to use an active company. So we really want to make sure to explain that this is a clean shell, and that the CPC founders that are a team of experienced capital markets professionals, so they listed the shell on the TSX Venture. They have some capital also in that shell. Usually the capital in the shell is close to 500,000 Canadian dollars just for operational cash, as we call it, but they already have the 200 shareholders. And then on the other side, once we have the CPC, and on the other side, we want to connect the CPC with an operating business. So when we do a matchmaking between a project and the CPC, we call this, and when they realize that the qualifying transaction in order to be listed on the TSX Venture, this is like you need to meet the listing requirements on the TSX Venture. So once the two are merging together, they realize the qualifying transaction, and the resulting issuer, so the private company, will own maybe 60 to 70% of the resulting issuer on the TSX Venture. So this is really important to mention, that the private company and the shareholders of the private company, they will remain majority stakeholder of the new listed company, but they will use the CPC as a faster route, a faster track to going public, and they will use the CPC founders that have capital markets experience to remain on the board once the company is listed. And even some CPCs and brokers, they can provide the capital that needs to be raised. And usually for a CPC, I would say that the capital raised can be between 2 and 10 million Canadian dollars. So that's usually the bracket we have in mind when a junior mining project wants to list and raise capital on the TSX Venture. So what we believe in for Latin America, why does it make sense for Latin America? We think it's a faster, more cost-effective route to go public than a traditional initial public offering, what we call an IPO. We bring the Canadian governance, the regulatory credibility of the TSX Venture Exchange, and we have, as I mentioned earlier, the seasoned CPC directors and investors to support the growth and scale of the project. So this is really promising for Argentina, I think, for Chile and for other neighboring countries looking to raise capital and list, because right now CPCs and brokers are looking at the region. They are looking at critical minerals, energy transition, precious metals. So I think it's the right timing to promote these opportunities to global investors. And the fact that they're coming to the region is a clear sign that there's a need to understand what's happening in the Argentinian market, as an example, but also to better understand the potential, the mining potential of the region. So I hope it responds to your question about how to work on a CPC, but we'll have more and more information in the next few weeks about the CPC program, and we can communicate with your audience some additional information on the CPC, the structures of the CPC, and some presentations, and also some webinars in the next couple of weeks.
Thank you, Guillaume. And I think it touched upon a very important topic, which is there is a very big increase in interest in the region, right? We see a region, Argentina, Chile, Peru, all the whole Andean region with so many resources. I think we've been all be talking about this future, electrification and all of this, future world that we want to build. And we really see the Andean region having all of these resources. It's a matter of how can we unlock it. And we see a very big increase in interest in the region, right? So I think you touched it very beautifully. And the question now is that how can we constructively create these kind of platforms where people interested in the region to either invest or even engage with their services and other ways? How can they meaningfully get connected, and how can they understand how to work in the region, and how can they be connected with the right stakeholders and projects in the region, right? And I think that's what we are trying to create here. And I would like to go back to Sebastian. And obviously we're talking about Mendoza, and a lot of people are thinking of Mendoza as a mining, a jurisdiction, specifically as a province. But I think something that should be highlighted is that what we are trying to achieve, and I think Impulsa Mendoza also tries to achieve, is essentially create a converging point of all of interesting points of Argentina and in the region as a place where can act as a meeting place and a hub to essentially leverage and not leverage, but essentially enable and help push forward the whole of the country and the region as a mining destination, right? And I think that's what we're trying to achieve in November as well, bringing the top 20 projects of the region. Can you talk to us a little bit more on, can we go a bit deeper on how do you see this, hub being created? How can this essentially leverage, all of the country and all of the region as a lever for growth for everyone, essentially? Can you maybe dive deeper a little bit there?
Yeah, of course, yes. Well, there is a huge point, I wanted to highlight as well. As you mentioned, a financial hub is not just about Mendoza. It's a financial hub for the region. And when considering that exploration mainly requires to get access to a capital market, as I said before, maybe it's easier to come to any place in Argentina rather than taking a plane to Canada, which is more expensive, which is a country that junior miners probably don't know if they don't have the correct networking or the knowledge. So what about becoming that place in South America where the junior miners can come here and connect with the right people, the people that can connect you in a faster and a more efficient way with Canada, with Toronto, which is where the money will come from mainly, at least in the first stage. So for that, we need to build the environment. And how do we build the environment? First of all, we need to characterize what a financial hub is, right? What we did is to find benchmarks, for example, the Global Financial City Index, which ranks the competitiveness of different financial cities, considering their business environment, their human resources, their infrastructure, the tax regime, the development of the financial sector, and their reputation. Those are kind of the main pillars that make it more competitive a financial hub. There's where we understood that Mendoza has several comparative advantages to become that place, because any place can, of course, become like a financial hub. The point is, how do we become a financial hub in the most efficient way? For example, Mendoza's logistic, thanks to our airport, is highly connected with Sao Paulo, with Buenos Aires, with Panama, with Santiago de Chile. So it's easier in that way to come to Mendoza, where you are going to be hosted by a beautiful environment, good restaurant, good people, market-friendly environment. It's important to highlight, that
it's important.
the environment, because let's think how a financial guy think about it. It's part of what they're willing to find, And by meeting the people, you need to first have the people with the knowledge. In Mendoza, we have a huge human resources, capital human potential. We have several companies. We have a lot of lawyers, accountants with high level. So it will be easy to teach them as fast as possible to become the knowledge and see opportunity for how to get financing in the mining sector. And of course, we have the correct place to meet people all over the world. For example, for our summit in November. It will take place first in Buenos Aires in a more institutional way, and then we will come to Mendoza for a matchmaking session where we are going to connect not only project owners, but also investors all over the world, right? And then we will have the chance to visit Mendoza, to stay here, and to take advantage of the travel here by staying here. So what I want to say is that we have a lot of capabilities that make more efficient to become as fast as possible a financial hub, and we are in a place which is strategically located that make more efficient, the connection. So that's what we understood. We understood that Mendoza, of course, it will be like this place, and we are pushing that from Impulsa Mendoza and the government. But what is important to highlight is that now the private sector is taking the decision, and the private sector decision will chase the efficiency, right? So if that happens, well, it will confirm that we can become that place, in the near future.
Thank you, Sebastian. Guillaume, I'm not sure if you have any comments.
Well, yeah, I would like to highlight the leadership, as I mentioned earlier, from Mendoza. In that sense, markets are competing for capital. Countries compete for capital against each other. The provinces in Argentina have been keen at promoting their mining jurisdictions, and our investors understand Argentina. I think the number of properties listed, the number of issuers with properties in Argentina is a clear signal that people understand what Argentina has to offer, but at the same time, they need to understand what's happening at the macro level. And that's why the conference in Buenos Aires on November 12th and 13th will be quite key to understand Argentina as a whole, understand also what's happening in each province. And when we dig into the matchmaking session in Mendoza on the 14th, we expect to bring, as you mentioned, Stelios, earlier, about 20 leading projects from the region, from Argentina, from Chile, and even from Peru. So we're working with different stakeholders to generate this. And why do we want to showcase only 20 projects? Because we expect those projects to be almost ready to go public. When I say ready, I mean they have the 42-101 almost completed or in process of being finalized, that can be reviewed by our geologists also as a starting point. We want to talk with the management team. We want to understand their project. So we will try to help companies position for the matchmaking session. And on the other hand, we will bring the investors that have the capital and the capacity to finalize the qualifying transaction in let's say 6 to 12 months. So we're looking at the companies that the projects that have the capacity to go public on the TSX Venture in about 6 to 12 months. So just to highlight also the step-by-step approach. When you want to list on the TSX Venture with a CPC, the first step is the target match. So we are introducing private companies to CPC. So it works both ways. The private company needs to choose the CPC that is better suited for their need. And the CPC's vision, the founders of the CPC, their vision must be also aligned with the private company. Some of them will look at precious metals. Some of them will look at more lithium. Some of them will look at energy transition or critical minerals or just renewable energy or clean tech. So we have different CPCs, different profiles. So that's really the step on the 14th is the matchmaking to make sure that we align the interest of the private company, property owners with the CPCs and the brokers. And then there will be negotiation. And of course, it's a negotiation between the two entities. So the CPC will define the role they will play. in the new listed company, and the private company will also discuss in terms of capital raise, how much capital can be raised and what the capital will be used for. And then there's a disclosure and review. So all the disclosure documents have to be prepared, including the audited financial statements. So this is a very key element and my listing requirement also to provide the financial statements audited at the TSX Venture. And then there will be the TSX Venture review. They review the transaction, the compliance with its policies, and then closing the transaction. So upon approval, the deal will close and the resulting issuer will start trading. So we believe that we can achieve this between 6 to 12 months. And that's why we are happy to be part of the education process, but we want to make sure that the projects that will be selected will be ready to go public and raise capital within 6 to 12 months.
That's extremely important. I think we're certainly arriving at the end of the webinar. It was a fantastic conversation. Time flew really quickly, actually. I just wanted to potentially wrap up and give a bit more context about what we're trying to do, and I would love to also hear some closing remarks from the both of you. For those that have following us up until now, would like to invite you also at the workshop that we're hosting next week, and also at our at the big conference that we are organizing as a big converging space for all of the initiatives that we've been organizing for the last year, more or less. To give a bit more context, in November, between 12th and 14th, we'll be hosting almost a week of investments and matchmaking between financiers, projects, and also key service companies to advance the mining sector of the country. We'll be hosting 2 days in Buenos Aires, a more institutional way. We'll be doing it a few weeks after elections, actually, of Argentina, which I know a lot of people are waiting for, to hear firsthand of the key stakeholders of the country. How is the market going on? How can you get involved in the market as a country? How can you operate? What are the key projects that right now are moving forward? And then we're going to be hosting one day in Mendoza, where in collaboration with TSX, exactly, we'll be bringing the top 20 earlier stage projects, but advanced enough to start essentially operation very soon, raising capital and finding the key partners to move forward from Argentina, Chile, and Peru. And we're going to close the whole week also with a lot of experiences. I think Mendoza has all of the infrastructure needed, both financially, but also to fall in love with the country, which I think is very important for people to see this side as well. And eventually create a whole experience of understanding the market, seeing how you can get involved in the market, and then seeing at which projects you can get involved now that everything is, I think we are about to grow really quickly. So I would like to close with that from my side. We're welcoming everyone for next week and in November. If you have any questions, please feel free to comment below. And I would like to close as well with some remarks, maybe starting from Guillaume from an international point of view, and then Sebastian, if you can close as well with some thoughts on the hub and everything that we've been discussing. Guillaume?
Yeah, thank you, Stelios. And really, it's about, of course, it is challenging to raise capital for early stage companies, but we think that we can identify the leading projects in the region. Investors are looking at the region right now in terms of nearshoring, friendshoring. They understand that Latin America, Argentina can play a very important role in Chile and Peru and the other neighboring markets. So let's use this as the opportunity to position the best projects. And just to summarize also some of the figures I mentioned, the importance of the CPC program for Argentina, there's about 35 companies listed on the TSX Venture Exchange with properties in Argentina, and about 15 of them started with a CPC. So I didn't want to mention specific names for this conference, but just numbers overall. The CPC program was important for the growth of TSX Venture issuers with properties in Argentina. So this is the way forward, and let's be pragmatic and work together to find the capital needed to grow the project. So we're happy to be part of this initiative, and we'll be happy to discuss in the next couple of weeks about the onboarding process for the projects. As I mentioned, I'll be looking at the projects. We have geologists at the TSX Venture, TSX, that will be looking at the project. So we will be selecting the best projects in the weeks to come.
Thank you so much. Sebastian?
Yes, as a conclusion about the financial hub, just want to mention that in Mendoza, we have kind of the hard work, for becoming a financial hub. We just need to plug in the software. And there is where we invite every people in the region to get involved, because by encouraging Mendoza and becoming or having some place here in the region where the miners can get the financing in a more efficient way will contribute to the development for the full zone. So we are really happy, and the best way to get involved, is to participate in this kind of activities, to attend to the summit, to attend to a workshop, to improve the knowledge. The value creation comes from there, and I think that we are in a good way and in a very collaborative way. And really glad to host your IMBR and TSX in Mendoza once again. It's a pleasure for us. In terms of mining, I'd say that we are in a really good momentum. Argentina offers several opportunities when analyzing the ETF across the world. Gold, uranium, silver are outperforming, traditional ETF. The mining companies are carrying on like several and huge buyback or dividend programs. So the money is there. At the same time, the discovery rate has been declining during the last year. The world is waiting for an opportunity, like a new success case. I'm confident that that success case can come from Argentina specifically, in order to contribute as well to this critical mineral situation in the world, which open a huge opportunity for our region. So looking forward to host you here in Mendoza. Okay, guys, keep pushing.
Thanks a lot, Sebastian. Thank you, Guillaume, for your comments. It was a pleasure having you both today. If anyone wants to speak further with Guillaume or Sebastian, feel free to connect with them on LinkedIn or join us physically so we can meet face to face. Thank you, everyone, for accompanying us in this webinar, and hope to see you again next time. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.